Welcome to the Entrepreneur Gene. I'm your host, Laurie Barkman. Each week, we'll hear from founders and CEOs to explore key decisions they've made for growth, value creation, and challenges along the way. This show is sponsored by the Business Transition Sherpa, offering entrepreneur advisory services from transition to transaction. Don't forget to hit subscribe, follow us for the latest episodes, and visit thebusinesstransitionsherpa.com for more exclusive content. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Gene. I'm Laurie Barkman. Today's guest brings a wealth of experience on the platform, on the stage, and I think he's going to bring that energy to the show. I'm so excited to learn about his experience working with clients to help them strategize digital marketing campaigns, because everybody knows I love digital marketing a lot. He's a certified speaker and has been doing so for over 15 years. So I definitely need to take some notes from you on that. He is the author of Authentically Social, a guide to help readers grow their audience, increase engagement, and generate sales. He's also the owner of Impact Social. Welcome, Corey Perlman.
Thank you, Laurie. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on the show.
Yeah, great. You know, Corey, we spent some time getting to know each other. I want to know, is there an entrepreneurial gene, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. When you asked me that question, definitely takes you back a little bit, but the short answer is yes. Both my parents, my mom, who passed away when I was 24 years old, but before that, she was an entrepreneur. She was a therapist. She helped women who were sexually abused as children, and so she helped them cope with that and manage that. And so her work was very, obviously influential and powerful. But I always saw her work when she wanted to and not work when she didn't. So I thought that was interesting and cool. And my dad also built a company around fathering, actually. So both of them very cool, I would say, and powerful industries, and also both entrepreneurs and manage their own time, great work-life balance. And so I quickly realized that that was a path that I wanted to take as well. So it's definitely part of my gene for sure.
You have such respect for your parents. It's beautiful. And they each took a different part of your story here. I want to just understand a little bit more if we can. It's interesting to learn about your mom, and I'm so sorry to hear she died at such a young age. The practice that she built, can I call it a medical practice? I mean, she was a licensed therapist. A lot of times when I meet entrepreneurs who are in the medical field, they don't see themselves as entrepreneurs. They see themselves as a person of that craft, right? They have a law degree, they have a medical degree, but many of them find themselves in the shoes of an entrepreneur, but not well prepared for that. How do you think that your mom ultimately was sort of balancing both?
Yeah, I think that's a fair generalization, if you will, that, and I think she fell into that same category of, she loved what she did. She was passionate for what she did. And the business side is kind of there, that you had to do it, and figure it out. But she did a really nice job with that. It seemed like, again, I was I was mid-20s when she passed away. So I didn't really get a chance to fully understand career-wise. She was just always a great mom, as far as I knew from that. But that's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur, I would say, is that, no regrets, right? So I would say the same thing for me, that I've had the opportunity to be home more than away, and try not to miss any games and events and things of that nature. And I'd say the same for her. She was so able, from what I could tell, to be a full-time, 100% laser focused mom. But also when she was passing away, there was literally hundreds of women around the community who were coming out to say goodbye to her because she had made such a impact on them. So what a wonderful life, right? Her kids get to say that she was a great mom, and her clients got to say that she was amazing at what she did. So, but yes, as a medical field person, I think the entrepreneur business side came secondary to her skill set for sure.
Yeah, no, truly, truly heartfelt, description of what you said about your mom. Your dad, you mentioned, I just want to make sure I was hearing you. Did you say that he had developed a business that helped other fathers?
Yeah, it's called the Nurturing Fathers Program. It's kind of my side hustle right now, actually. In fact, I was just in Tampa shooting a podcast with my dad on being a better father called the Nurturing Fathers Podcast. And so yeah, he's got a 13-week curriculum that helps men become better fathers. It's a face-to-face training. It's done all over the world, and he's got certified trainers all over the place. Very, very powerful curriculum. I've taken it, and I've also facilitated it. I facilitated it over 10 times in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary with inmates, and all men trying to do better and make sure that their kids don't make the same mistakes they have. So yeah, he's got an inspiring story as well, and I'm lucky enough to be able to spend a lot of time with him right now and help him grow that business.
Wow. I don't think we chatted about that too much on our pre-call, and I want to give your dad a little plug if we can.
Sure.
Tell us what's the name of your dad's name and the business name.
So my dad's name is Mark Perlman, and the program is the Nurturing Fathers Program. It's facilitated, like I said, all over the world, mostly in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Just got translated into Spanish, and our podcast is called the Nurturing Fathers Podcast, and you can hear Dad and I talk to each other, make fun of each other, and also try to help dads as well, all at the same time.
I'm super impressed, and I love that you guys are doing it together. I'm sure he's benefiting tremendously, learning from you. It's like reverse mentoring, right? Here, you're the digital marketing guy. And how old is your dad, if I can ask? You don't have to say exact age, but just generally.
I don't mind. Yeah, he's 81 years old, so he's
Oh my goodness, he's got a podcast at 81, and he's got this global platform. Wow, that's amazing. We love your dad. We're here to talk about you, but thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing, and it helps me understand your story as you learned so much from your parents growing up, seeing them building their practices, building what's meaningful to them. You were seeing them being entrepreneurs, right? So the question is it a learned skill? Can you learn entrepreneurship? And if you were going to teach it, what would you teach, and how would you teach it?
the first question is it a learned skill? I would say yes. I think that there's definitely some parts of you that have to be, it's like nature versus nurture. So I'd say the nature side, what was sort of built inside is you have to have the ability to go with the flow and not allow the ups and downs to get too overwhelming for you. And that's probably a little bit of what your personality is like. I think there are certain personalities, I've said this over time, that are just better to be employees, for lack of a better way of saying it. And that's not a knock on them. It just means that we're all different people. And for some people, having a steady paycheck, they're very happy to be in that world. And that makes sense to me for them. And so I think there are some innate parts of our genetics that predetermine whether or not we're better fit to be entrepreneurs, business owners, or to be part of a larger organization. That being said, I think there are some things that I've had to learn over time, and I'm sure all entrepreneurs, there's certain strengths and weaknesses that you have. I'm not a very detailed person, more on the creative side. So over time, I've had to learn how to, make processes my friend, and certain things that where it's dotting the I's and crossing the T's that might not come second nature to me has been something that I've had to work on. And I think entrepreneurs know that they constantly have to work on themselves from a leadership standpoint, from a skills standpoint. We're constantly growing and adapting. So I think that that's super important. So to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of both. But the one thing I will say to your audience is I've had to learn this over time. There is no right or wrong answer when it comes to being an entrepreneur or not. It's really what makes you feel more comfortable. And there's pluses and minuses to both for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an individual sport.
Yeah.
We can say it that way. Everyone has their own style of leading in on entrepreneurship. So I appreciate everything you said there. When it comes to running your business, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now?
I would say for sure building the team and putting the right people on the right seats on the bus, as Jim Collins says, in Good to Great, right? It's not only finding great people, but finding the right seat on the bus for them. And I have an amazing team. And I think, figuring out where their skill sets meet the right opportunities at your organization is by far the most challenging, but also rewarding part. And I would say right now we've got a really amazing team who are all um, on the right spots on the bus, and therefore our business is doing better than ever, and it's really thanks to them.
Oh, that's amazing. What advice would you give a CEO or an entrepreneur who's facing a similar challenge regarding the team and the right people in the right seats?
Definitely take the time to interview, and I've always, and I don't know about you, but I less about the resume and more about the sort of the EQ more than the IQ. I always feel like I can teach certain skills if they don't have a lot of experience in digital marketing, but they're a go getter, they're enthusiastic, they have a great attitude, they're excited about the job, they're easy to speak to, and they've got a great kind of presence about them. All that stuff to me is innate and sort of something that is very hard to teach. And the other stuff can come over time. So I would say to them, spend the time on the interview process and really look for people who just mesh with your organization really well, and less about experience and what might be a certain piece of their resume and things of that nature. And the only other thing I would say is allow for help. I have some great leadership in my team that have helped me reinforce that these decisions were the right decisions. Sometimes what I might think is different than what they think, and so having other opinions as part of the process has been really helpful for me as well.
Yeah, I love the framework. I always come back to it. It's three things. When I was interviewing for a CEO position, I went out in the internet world and I was like Googling, okay, what questions might I get as a CEO candidate? And I found a framework. I think it was a Forbes article or a Wall Street Journal, I don't remember. And it just has stuck with me. And I've given this advice to my college students, to my own kids as they've interviewed. And it's really boils down to three things. Every question you get is going to fall into one of these three buckets. So in contrast, if you're the interviewer, right, consider these three buckets: strengths, motivations, and fit.
Mm.
So if you ask the question, well, what are your weaknesses? That's really a strengths question, right?
Mhm.
And kind of well, why do you want to be here is the motivation question. And then fit is some of the other attributes that you're saying about, culture and ability to learn and for leaders to coach and then be a mentor and things like that. So anyway, I like what you're saying. It's a yes and, right? I just wanted to add on a little bit to it.
I love that.
Well, let's consider the future. When you think about your industry, it is changing all the time. If we kind of categorize your industry as digital marketing, if that's a fair
It is.
categorization. Yeah, I mean, literally, I spent I don't know if you and I talked about this. I spent, I don't know, God goodness, 20, 25 years in digital
Oh,
marketing.
wow.
And so from the internet early days of digital, right, where I was doing Google keywords in a spreadsheet to, now look at it today. So anyway, I empathize with the days where we didn't have tools, right? And now today we have tons of tools. And also the pace of change. So there's just a lot going on. What excites you about the future of the digital marketing industry?
Yeah, like you said, we've probably been in that space equal amount of time. So, and as you know, in internet marketing years, that's like, or regular years, that's like 100 years. I mean, 25 years ago, there was no Facebook. There was no. It was all, like you said, internet marketing. That's kind of how I got my start, was SEO and websites and things of that nature. And then Facebook comes along, and then and MySpace, if you remember that, and so on and so forth. And every few years, the market changes, platforms change, algorithms change, and although that's hard to keep up with, it's great job security for me and my team, because there's always something to talk about because things are changing so much. So what excites me? I think that what I love about where digital marketing is today is that the playing field's been leveled a lot, I would say. What I mean by that is small businesses can meet the big businesses in the same spots and do the same things. And really, it comes down to the quality of your content, the value that you provide. And I always talk about like big banks versus community banks. Back in the day, it was the big banks won because they had more money to spend. And nowadays, if the community bank does a really good job of presenting themselves, their culture, their value, being a resource to members and customers, then they can win. And that's what kind of marketing has become, which is really cool. And that excites me a lot in terms of the ability for small businesses to be able to compete with the bigger businesses on the world of the web.
Yeah, it used to be about the big budgets.
Yes.
In my career, I like to make the joke that I was managing marketing budgets from $1 to $100 million. And you'd be surprised to know that the dollar is the joke,
Right.
right? So literally, I had a $100 million marketing budget. I mean, that's an insane amount of money, and we spent it wisely. But it's like you're old, there's the old adage, 50% of your marketing budget is not working for you. You just don't know which 50. And now with today's tools, I think maybe we do start to know and we can optimize more. I think the other aspect of what I'm seeing, I'd be curious about your thoughts, Corey. A lot of times when I ask the question on the show, people say AI. And marketing is just ripe for one of those fields to have a conversation about AI. Some fear the technology, some embrace the technology, and then some are like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out. And they're kind of in the middle. Where do you guys land on all of that?
Excellent question. So we love AI, but we treat AI like a first year intern or first year, employee right out of school. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of handholding. There's a lot of oversight. We don't just go willy-nilly on AI and have them spit out a blog post or an e-newsletter and just post it for our clients. That would be a recipe for disaster. And candidly, and I think you would agree, Laurie, you can sniff out AI content. It's too polished. It's too perfect. It's too generic. So what you need to do is use it as a tool. And so what we do is I always say, it's the first draft. So if we're doing a blog post or any kind of post for our clients, we'll let AI give it a first start. Give us some ideas, AI. What's going on in the world today that we can talk about? Or can you write me a post on the real estate trends in 2025? And it'll spit out some pretty good stuff. And then when we'll take it, we'll personalize it with a couple of stories that you cannot make up, that you cannot pull out of AI. It's real life. It's something that maybe has happened to our clients or happened to us. Another way that we use it, Laurie, I just used this recently, is we may shoot some really good videos, either ourselves or our clients. Let's just say they shot a great video. We have a flooring client, and they shot some awesome video in a home with the different, behind the scenes that they've done on flooring and such. But as you know, it's a very, very competitive space out there. So how do we get their videos watched? So we would go to AI and we would say, hey, AI, we just did some flooring videos on, laminate versus vinyl or something to that effect. Can you give us a provocative, engaging title or some choices that might engage some more listeners or get us some more viewers to the video? And oh my gosh, the stuff that AI puts out is amazing. And it gives us the opportunity to pick and choose some titles that will really move the needle for that client. So that's a perfect example of using AI to its strength, but also making sure that the majority of the content comes from humans.
If you love the insights on this show, you'll love the insights I share in my book, written for entrepreneurs like you who are building with your exit in mind. Take the next step in your business journey to make your business more scalable and valuable. Head on over to btsherpa.com/book to grab your free digital copy of the Business Transition Handbook. Or you can also click the link in the show notes, btsherpa.com/book. Yeah, I thought your definition of a first year interns was pretty funny, and that resonated with me. I think there's plenty of use cases for AI assisting with creativity, not relying 100% on the AI to deliver the creativity, to your point. And, my guidance on this show and otherwise, is to not fear the technology. Use the technology, try it. Don't just dismiss it as, oh, it's going to take away, my job, if that's how you think, or if it's going to take away client work's going to go away because of it. I think lean in on the enhancements to make your team more effective, work more productively, improve utilization. All those things can help a service business for sure. And the output on the creativity level, when you're matching up your team with the tools, it should definitely be it should be sparking all kinds of fun things. And it sounds like it is for your team, which is really cool.
I think back to when like Canva or Photoshop came out, and the world was worried that graphic design artists would disappear, especially when Canva came out. And that's not the case, as we've seen. What happens is people learn how to use the tools, and those who use the tools most effectively win. And I think the same thing for AI. I think that, as I mentioned, the more we master the tools, the more we learn how to use them most effectively. I'll give your listeners one quick tip about using AI effectively. The benefit, the output is going to directly correlate to what you give AI. So the first thing we always do, especially since we have multiple clients, is we tell AI a lot about the client before we ask anything. Hey, this is their website. Hey, this is their demographic that they're going after. This is their likes in it. We tell it anything we possibly can, and it'll say, thank you so much for letting me know more about what you're trying to accomplish. And then the question we ask is very specific too, to try to get the right answer. So just giving it those early prompts about who your audience is and what you're trying to accomplish will help get the answer that you're looking for a lot easier, more effectively.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Writing the prompts, I think that's going to be a job.
Yes.
People who are able to write AI prompts really well. I read a newsletter article this week about a whiz kid duo, and they set to create, I don't know, I think they created like 31 new businesses or apps, if you will, based on AI. And the list was, every one of them was so different, but it was very specific. And they used AI to create these and flesh out these ideas. And I saved it. I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta keep coming back to that newsletter." That was just so eye-opening
Yeah.
and such a great example of how we can use things to create and let AI help us manifest, these new things, which is our opportunity.
Powerful. And we just have, scratched the surface. I mean, we are literally, as I mentioned, if you look at AI, I mean, it's, it's just in the infancy of its world. So that's why we need to handhold it so much, because it truly is just, it's even less than an intern. It's like, it's a newborn.
Yeah, it's a newborn. Absolutely. Well, we've learned so much from you in this first part of the show. And now I want to transition a little bit to learn a little more about you. And so, for our audience, tell us a little bit more about you. What's the Corey Perlman origin story?
I came from corporate bringing, as you and I talked a little bit about in our pre-call. I started out with General Motors. We were teaching car dealers about the internet back in 2000, right before September 11th, actually. That's how I always remember that date. And we were traveling the country, teaching them about how to make money, if you will, or do more business over the web. And it got me into this field, so I appreciated that opportunity from GM and from my professor at the time from Florida State, who brought me up there. And from there, it just kind of manifested. I wrote this book called eBoot Camp, which was internet marketing essentially for dummies. It was published by Wiley, which also produces the Dummies series. But that's kind of what the content was about. And it did pretty well, and it got me into speaking and consulting. And so I never planned on being a keynote speaker or a consultant in this world, but it all sort of, sort of backed my way into it, which a lot of entrepreneurs do. So none of this was pre-planned by any stretch. I wasn't a kid saying, "Oh, I want to be, an agency owner or a public speaker when I grew up." But it's just kind of the way it all worked out. I've got two amazing children and a beautiful wife, and a dog and a bunny who are walking around me right now, trying to distract me. So it's a crazy life, but I wouldn't ask for anything different. So.
Oh, that's cool. We have wild rabbits that live in my yard, and I have named all of them Fat Rabbit.
Yeah.
They are probably all different rabbits, but to me, they're all Fat Rabbit.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. It was like clockwork that every night at 7:30, the Fat Rabbit would come and sit outside our window and drive my dogs crazy.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. How does my dog know that Fat Rabbit is sitting outside?
Yeah.
Do they hear the heartbeat? How do your animals live together in harmony? How's that happening?
Dogs are pretty amazing with that. Like, they know what's going on. And my dog is almost 16 years old. So he's losing a lot of what you're referring to, I would say, but he still knows some things that I still have no idea how he knows. But no, the bunny will fall, land on top of him at times or hop on top of him, and Domino will pay no attention. So very, very patient animal.
It's very cool. If you could go back in time, maybe we'll pick the time and we say you're at the big co. You're at General
Okay.
Motors. And you're going to talk to yourself and you're going to go, "Hey, you know what? Psst, hey, psst, you self, you're going to be an entrepreneur one day." Like, would you kick yourself in the can and say, "What are you, crazy?" What entrepreneurial advice do you want to give yourself back in time? Maybe it's then or maybe it's another time.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect timing, and I would say definitely do it. I think I'd have done it a lot faster and quicker if I took the advice that I was given at that time that I didn't follow yet, which was follow the positive taps. And what that means is you can kind of look at it in many different ways that you want, depending upon, your spirituality or religion. But for me, it was, the universe kind of telling me where I should go. At the time, I was really wanting to push down this path of an investor company that I was trying to create, but nobody cared about that. And I was getting no positive taps from that. Whereas with this internet marketing class that we called eBoot Camp, every time I teach it, people would love it and they'd ask me to do it again. And I had, you know, business owners putting money in my literally stuffing money in my pockets to teach them this stuff because they loved it. And I was like, I'm sure it's nothing, and I kept pushing it away. And finally, one day I was just like, I got to follow what the market is asking me for versus trying to push this other thing that is going nowhere. And so that is something I would definitely have told myself earlier on is listen to those positive taps and go in the direction of least resistance, and success will find you a lot quicker. So that's what I tell myself.
Oh, that's really smart. I like that a lot. We talked earlier about purpose when we talked about your parents, and they had a very clear purpose, each of them, which your dad has continued to follow through on in his business. I love asking my guests about purpose inside the business and purpose outside the business. Corey, how do you define it for yourself?
Inside the business, I love small business. I mean, that's just always been something that I love. When I go around my town here in Roswell and make sure that I spend my money as much as I can in the places that provide such an amazing community here, and all that. So small business has just always been something that I loved. And so I love helping small businesses. And so I mentioned that earlier about sort of fighting against the big guy kind of thing. And so that's something that inspires me, and is a big passion of mine. Outside my business, as I also mentioned earlier, the fathering movement. I think that over the last 20, 30 years, men have realized that, it's not weakness to be nurturing. It's not, soft to be involved and care for our kids and be present and all that. And so I think that the more we can get men to be actively present with their kids, and want to be, the best dads that they can, and to discipline and impact their kids without fear or violence, the world will be a better place. So I think that that's definitely what moves me outside my normal 9 to 5, if you will.
I love that. If you could spend more time doing one thing, what would it be?
The two things would probably be that, um, for sure, spending time with my dad, and moving that movement forward. And my other passion is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I do that 3 times a week, where I go to a place and roll around with guys, which sounds weird, but there's a lot of fun. And I love doing it. I've been doing it for 13 years, and I'd love to do that more.
That is super cool. I love both of those things. That's a great answer. We're winding the show down. We've covered a lot of ground, but I have one more question that's kind of a catch-all. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you think you would want to share that could be helpful to small business owners and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, thank you for this interview. It's been fun to go back, and I think if people have stuck with us and are here till the end, I like to give a couple of things that would really be of value to their business from, my world of digital marketing, social media. So I'll give you a couple real quick. One is some of the things the fundamentals that I always tell small businesses is, one is prioritize the platforms. And so don't be a jack of all social media sites, master of none. Instead, focus on a few and do them really well. So don't try to be everywhere. Try to, plant your flag on a few places. Typically, those are LinkedIn, maybe Instagram/Facebook are typically the ones that we see giving the most bang for their buck. Maybe TikTok, if the world allows, America, US, whatever, allows TikTok to continue to be a platform that people are going to use. But bottom line is figure out who your demographic is, your age, ethnicity, male, female, whatever the case may be, and where they're spending the most time on social, and meet them there. And then the other thing I would say is video. I think that video is a major player in all platforms now, including LinkedIn. Short form video, short form being 60 seconds or under. And don't bury the lead. You got to tell them right off the bat what you're about to give them, and try to do it consistently. So your homework, if you will, is, do 3 or 4 videos over the next month, 60 seconds or less in length, and tell them right off the bat what they're going to get. So if you are in the world of real estate, here are the 3 things you need to know to get the best mortgage rate you can possibly get in 2025, or something to that effect. Tell them now so that they stick with you, and then deliver the goods, and you'll see more engagement on social than you've seen in the past.
That's awesome. Okay, everybody just got some free digital marketing value bombs right there. That's amazing. Corey, if people want to find you, what's a great way to connect?
Definitely on social. I'm at Corey Perlman Speaks on Instagram. LinkedIn, it's just Corey Perlman on LinkedIn, and that's Corey, and then Perl without the A, Perlman. And would love for you to grab the book, which is right there. Authentically Social will be a great entry into the world, my world. And I put a lot of those principles and a lot more into that book. And if you liked today, then I'd love for you to grab that book. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely encourage everybody to do that. And for all the fathers out there, one more time, what's the name of your dad's podcast?
Nurturing Fathers Podcast. And you can go to nurturingfathers.com and see us over there.
There you go. So you tell your dad that he was part of this show too.
I will.
Corey, thank you so much for your time. It's been so wonderful to get to know you, and I appreciate you coming on the show to share all your experiences.
Thank you, Laurie. Thanks for doing this. This is great. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. And thanks to all of our listeners. We are so grateful for you to be here today. If you enjoyed this show, why not follow us? Why not follow in your favorite podcast player? You can also find all of our videos on YouTube, Business Transition Sherpa channel, where you'll also see our sister podcast, Succession Stories, with all the videos from that show as well. So thanks again to my guest, Corey Perlman, and we will see you all next time. Hey, that's a wrap. This show is sponsored by the Business Transition Sherpa, working with entrepreneurs who want to escape feeling like a prisoner in their own business and to eventually let go flawlessly. If you loved today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And if you want to help support the Entrepreneur Gene, I'd encourage you to leave a rating and review. Ratings and reviews truly help our show grow and get in front of more entrepreneurs just like you. If you do leave a rating and review, we'll be so happy. Take a screenshot of it, send it to my email, Laurie@btsherpa.com, and we'll send you a free digital copy of my book, The Business Transition Handbook. And we'll also enter you to win one of our monthly swag boxes. For show notes, including links to everything in today's episode, be sure to visit btsherpa.com. Also, as a reminder, you can watch this full video interview on our YouTube channel for the Business Transition Sherpa. While you're there, be sure to check out videos from our award-winning podcast called Succession Stories. We'll see you next time on The Entrepreneur Gene.